This is Ultimate Soccer with Soccer Steve.
Okay, guys, welcome back to another edition of The Exchange. Today we're going to look at groups A, D, G, and H. We've got Ryan Annis from the TFC Midwest Podcast with us again. Hi, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great stuff, great stuff. Got a lot to get through, mate, and I'll tell you what, everybody tuning in, if you haven't subscribed to either of these shows, do so now, and like, and subscribe, and share, and do everything you can, because as we go through to the World Cup, that's myself, Soccer Steve, and Ryan Anderson, we're both going to go heavy on the World Cup, so keep it here, and literally enjoy what we bring, and don't go anywhere else. Now, moving on, let's get straight to it, because you know what, time's not worth wasting, people. Let's get into it. Group A. Group A, you know, Holland, Senegal, Ecuador, Qatar. There's a couple of interesting teams in there. Give me your point of view on Group A. What you got, Ryan?
For me, I think the two best teams in this group are Netherlands and Senegal. I think that's a pretty clear-cut group. The question is how good Qatar does, because it depends on how this group is reffed. If this group is some South Korea help from the refs to Qatar, it may not be as far-fetched as what I think, but I don't think Qatar is good enough of a team right now to fairly on their own be more than a fourth-place team. They could be one of the worst hosting teams in World Cup history, I believe, the way they're playing right now.
That's an interesting new point. You're alluding back to 2002 with South Korea and Italy, I guess, right?
Yes.
Right. I'll tell you what,
because
you could have a point with that. I mean, let's face it. Carry on, mate.
For me, Qatar right now, 2021 Gold Cup was like the peak of their powers in my book. Yeah. Ever since then, they've been falling down. They are not top 50 in the world. I have a feeling that hosting a World Cup and all the power that FIFA's put into this due to the corruption, there's going to be some ref ball in their matches. Is it enough to save them? I don't know. But I don't think their matches will be completely clean. But if they are, they're no more than a fourth-place team. That's the way I see Qatar there.
So you're taking Holland and Senegal above Ecuador and Qatar for sure, yeah?
Yes.
Do you think there's a chance Ecuador might slide into second if Senegal doesn't show up? I mean, obviously, there's a great guy there playing for Bayern Munich. Talk on him for sure.
Sadio Mane, one of the best players in the world right now. The man who made Liverpool the engine in that house until he left to Bayern Munich. It turns out that Sadio Mane was that engine, and he's still picked up where he left off, going to Bayern. He's been amazing. One of the best players in the world. Yep. One of the biggest players in African football, and him showing how big African football has become over the past 7 to 10 years, the past almost a decade. But Sadio, great player. And he's going to be one of the reasons why Senegal gets out of this group if he plays to his ability. But I think he will. He's still healthy right now. Of course, there's been a lot of injuries over the past 2 weeks because of all the fixtures being played going near the World Cup. And I'm sure there'll be more in the next 2 weeks, more injuries because of all these fixtures. Again, because they're not worried about the players' well-being. They just want to get to halfway through the European seasons before they get to the World Cup, and then they have to play a month tournament if you go that deep, and then go straight back to European football. MLS players and CONCACAF players have it a little bit better because of the way the seasons are over here. But again, if Sadio stays healthy, I have Senegal being a very not surprising team at the World Cup, but a very interesting team. For sure.
Absolutely. I mean, for all those guys out there that like the FIFA numbers, Holland comes in at ranked number 8. Senegal is not that far behind, ranked 18 in the world. Ecuador 44 and Qatar 50. So looking at your picks, I got to say, I do agree with what you're going with. I'm going with Senegal coming in second as well. I'm certainly going with Holland and Louis van Gaal getting them out of the group. And I think, Qatar, Felix Sanchez, you've played these guys against club teams. You've played these guys against national teams. It's not going anywhere but 3 defeats in my book. And I think Ecuador might be the guys that we are the third team to get a win. And it is Holland and Senegal. I absolutely agree with you, mate. Now, looking at Group D, France, Denmark, Tunisia, Australia. Didier Deschamps got a bit of a problem with Paul Pogba because he's not going to be there.
The thing about France for me is they seem primed for a champion's curse. If there's any team that's primed for a champion's curse, it's France. With the way that locker room is, with the way France always ends up bottling, except for 2018, I just have a feeling that France is going to disappoint. I really do. I've said this for months. Deschamps, he's not as good of a coach as he was 4 years ago. They should have changed, frankly. I think they should have went with Zidane, but they didn't. Maybe that's post-World Cup, but Zidane would have been much better for this French team, and he probably would have coached those egos better, kept them in check better. Benzema's a wonderful player. Karim Benzema is finally back, and that's a good thing for France, because if he wasn't, I would say that France is a lot more up the creek without the paddle than they already are. Benzema might save them, and that's why they still have a chance of not getting cursed. But for me, Pogba being gone, that's going to be a big thing, a big miss there. And N'Golo Kante, not as healthy as he once was, or if he is playing, he's not in form like he used to be. France definitely is primed to be upset and crash out of this World Cup. Simple as. I have a bad feeling about France. Euros, they crashed out, and I think we're going to see more of the same when it comes to the French team.
It gives you a feeling of deja vu. Such a lovely French word, but it really does feel like deja vu for the French, because I remember Senegal not so long ago slapping France and big upset game one, and it's a case of this really could help. I only believe one thing about this group, and it's the nature of the opposition. You think in Tunisia, no disrespect, and Australia, no disrespect. Denmark is definitely going to give France trouble. But if we had one more team of maybe Denmark's ilk in that group, I really think France would be in trouble. And I think that France wants to be very careful, as you pointed out, because they could find themselves behind the 8 ball very fast in a group that really isn't talking too much about upset. But this could be an upset in this group.
I do agree with you on Denmark. I think Denmark does finish first in this group. Denmark is a very good team, a very low-key team, but if you've been paying attention to Denmark, they are very good. And the way they played for Christian Eriksen at the Euros after his incident, the medical situation, they played for his memory, even though for hoping, trying to will him along for health, of course, in that way. And now he's back. And Christian Eriksen has been playing very well since he's came back in the Premier League with Brentford and now Man United. He's been playing very well, and it's a wonderful thing to see. I think everybody's rooting for Christian Eriksen right now, and I think Denmark's going to be one of the most bandwagon teams in the World Cup because of the Christian Eriksen factor, and just because they're an easy team to root for because of the Euros as well. But they're a very good team as well. Poulsen, of course. They've got a very, very low-key good team. They really do. And if Schmeichel still starts in goal, which I think he does, he may be a little bit older, but he's still got some talent. He's still got some good goalkeeping talent, but I think Denmark finishes first in this group. They did get out of the groups in 2018, if I recall correctly, right?
Yep.
I think they get out of the groups again, but they finished first this time, and Eriksen is a big reason why.
Now, France is ranked 4th, everybody. Denmark 10, Tunisia 30, and Australia 38. I am going for France finishing first, as apart from, obviously, Ryan, you're going for Denmark first, and I'm going to put Denmark in second. I do realise that Denmark is capable of finishing first, but until France really starts to slip down the slippery slope and gets that bad form coming into the picture, which could possibly happen. Let's face it, they have not been fantastic in the run into the World Cup. So they're showing all the signs that it could be another black eye World Cup for France. And they are the champions. So let's face it, is the trophy going to be changing hands? I think it possibly is, but that's obviously going to be later in. But I've got to say, Kasper Hjulmand, the Denmark coach, he might be one of the surprise coaches of the tournament moving through, should they depose France and finish first. Now, moving on to Group G, this is a real interesting group. I mean, you got Brazil, Switzerland, Serbia, and Cameroon in Group G. How do you split that up apart from the obvious?
For me, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon are all very, very close. They're three very close teams, and any of them could finish second. Any of them can. Switzerland, of course, their golden generation is starting to taper off a bit. Xherdan Shaqiri, of course, did not play well in MLS this year. He did not play well for the Chicago Fire. He's still going to the World Cup because, of course, Switzerland's going to call him. Granit Xhaka as well. He's sort of playing well for Arsenal, but he's not that heartbeat. But he's not bad. But again, Switzerland is not at the peak of their powers like they were back in 2018. I thought that was the year for them.
Yeah.
Of course, year is subjective, but still, that was better than what they have right now. Cameroon definitely is a possible shocker of a team in a good way, because I think African football is very underrated right now. I think it's very underrated because, of course, even with all the diaspora players in Europe, there still is African players who still play for their home countries. Any African team can deliver a shock in a World Cup at this point. And Cameroon is definitely poised to be one of those teams that could definitely shock you and be like, yeah, we're second. And then you have Serbia, where Serbia, for me, is a good team.
Yeah.
They're definitely nothing to scoff at. But again, they could shock you. They're not in a group. If there was two obvious top two teams, they would not be in the top two, but they got a pretty good draw.
Yeah.
They could pull something off. This is going to be a dogfight for second place. Brazil, of course, will finish first. They got a great team. They're the best team in the group by far. I think they still win all three games. It may not be blowouts, but I think they win all three of their games. They got Neymar. They got Alisson. They got a wonderful team in Brazil, and they're also a trophy contender, not just a group winner. They're a trophy contender, and they could easily win this tournament overall.
Yeah,
Brazil has a great form going into the World Cup. Them and Argentina were both some unstoppable teams in CONMEBOL qualifying, and also Copa America. They were the two last finalists. Brazil are definitely the best team in the group. They're going to finish first and probably unbeaten, I would say. All three wins. But then it's who finishes second, who does enough to finish second in those other two matches for their team. And for me, I'm going to lean towards Cameroon.
Cameroon in second.
I'm going to lean towards Cameroon, yes.
So that would be an absolute upset in the group. But let's face it, African teams have done this before. They've come through the group stages and they've gone into the round of 16. So you got to think of some of the amazing African football we've seen over the World Cup. And slowly but surely, African teams are getting closer and closer and closer. Could this be the year for Cameroon? You never know. For my money, I got to say Rigobert Song's done a fantastic job with Cameroon ever since he's taken charge. And he's somewhat what you would say of a national hero, especially from the soccer world. I mean, everybody loves Rigobert. There's no doubt about it. So he's the right man for the job. He's the right man for the right time. And if they do pull the shocker, a young, inexperienced 46-year-old coach is exactly the vitality you need on the sideline to keep those kids, which is what these teams are made of, to keep them kids firing along. For my take, I absolutely agree with you. Brazil is definitely going to win this. I do see 3 games, but I see one game against Serbia that I think could be absolutely explosive in the violence side of the game. I think Serbia will not get pushed over by anybody, and they will certainly show you that physical ilk in their game and that technical ability. And let's not forget, they've got some great strike force as well up front. So you're looking at Serbia as being possibly a real tough team to get by. Now, on the second spot, I do agree with you. I think it's between them and Switzerland per se, or maybe Cameroon. But I'm going to say that Switzerland go in a second spot for my money. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but that's what the World Cup's all about, is predictions. And that's what we're giving you guys right now, is you're getting predictions from Ryan Anderson, TFC Midwest podcast, and you're also getting Soccer Steve's predictions as well. Moving over now to the final group, Group H. We've got Portugal, Ronaldo, Uruguay, Nashers, Mr. Suarez, South Korea, Ji-Puk Son, and I'm going to say Otto Addo, because Otto Addo is a guy I want to speak to about Ghana once you've gone through. But in that group, Portugal, Uruguay, South Korea, Ghana, what's your take on that, Ryan?
For me, right now, of course, Heung-min Son just got injured in a Champions League match, and if that injury keeps him out of the World Cup, I think South Korea is up the creek without the paddle, because he's sort of like Mo Salah was to Egypt in 2018. A lot of people were worried if Mo Salah couldn't play in the 2018 World Cup, Egypt were screwed. And even though it turned out that he played and Egypt were still screwed, but this was after Salah came off his best season ever. The thing is South Korea, same position with Heung-min Son. And the injury does sound like it'll take him out for the start of the World Cup. And I think that puts South Korea in a hole that's hard to get out of. So for
do you take him with you just in case?
Oh, I would take him if I'm South Korea just in case, because it's a facial injury. He could wear one of those masks and probably play. But for me, you take him. But if he doesn't play, he doesn't play. But I would take him if it was me, but that's just me.
Yeah, I agree.
Just in case.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm going to lean on the side he doesn't play, even if he is taken. And I go with Portugal and Uruguay top 2. And I have Portugal winning the group by slight margin, because I think Portugal in this group is the slightly the best team in this group. I think Ronaldo has way more to give than he's given this season.
Yeah.
I think with Fernando Santos, it's a lot better of a system for Ronaldo that he'll play a lot better in. I think Erik ten Hag doesn't want to be one of those managers who says, I have Ronaldo, I have to use him somehow. He wants to stick with his system, which Ronaldo is now started to buy in. If you see how he's worked with Garnacho.
Absolutely.
And after he scored his first goal today. But the thing is I think Portugal fits Ronaldo more at this stage of his career. Even if Santos is a fraud of a manager, this is the time for Ronaldo to carry. And I think he's going to have some of his best performances since August with Portugal at this World Cup. I think he's got a lot to prove, and he knows it. Right now, he's got a lot to prove.
Fernando Sanchez, he's been around Fernando for years and years and years while playing for Team Portugal. So there'll be a certain feeling of safety net and a big-time respect towards each other, whereby I don't necessarily think Ten Hag gets that from Ronaldo, because he's more of a commodity than a player at that club. But with Portugal, he's a player, not a commodity. So I think he's in a better place with Portugal. I don't want to say that Man United is not a good place. It is a good place. But I think, as you pointed out, for his playing side, he's in the best situation with Portugal, rather not Man United.
Yes, and that's why I think Portugal will finish top of this group, because I think Ronaldo, this is his possibly last chance to win a World Cup. It's either this time or if he chooses to go to 2026, because he does have that Tom Brady factor about him, that try to beat Father Time factor, so to speak, that I could see him going to 2026 if they so do call him. Ronaldo would stay fit for that next 4 years, but this could be the last chance. And I think Ronaldo knows that. He has a lot to prove because of the season with United, and then the fact this could be the last chance. I think Portugal finishes first. Uruguay, they're a good team, but I think they finish second, but they will do a lot more defensive work than offensive work. But when Suarez and Cavani get the ball, it's going to be a moment where you have to watch out.
Yeah.
Once they get a chance to go forward, they'll get something. South Korea, again, that Heung-min Son injury, I'm going to lean towards the fact that it takes him out at least for a game or two, if not the whole group stage. Then Ghana, I like the team that they have. I like the group that they have. Thomas Partey has led that Ghanaian team to a great spot in the World Cup, a return to the World Cup, of course. But for me, I think that's fourth place. They'll have fight. They'll show out. They won't be a doorknob, a doormat, so to speak, but they'll show out. And I think that'll be fourth place, Ghana, third place, South Korea, Uruguay second, Portugal first.
I tell you what, I'm gonna agree. I don't normally agree, and we don't normally agree. But your Group H is exactly to mine. I'm looking at Portugal first, Uruguay second, Korea third, and Ghana fourth. And with Ghana, Coach Otto Addo, he hasn't been there that long, and he's got to get this team on fire. And he's only won 2 in 9. And when you look at the numbers, and you look at the numbers, and you keep looking at the numbers, they're not making any sense of a team on its rise. They're on a team on its downward trend. And at 61 in the league, or in the standings, I should say, I don't think there's a chance that Ghana can even pick up a point. I think I've seen Ghana in much better ilk and a better team. Go back a few World Cups ago, Ghana was one of the teams that excited me, excited the world, and I just don't know where that team went. I mean, that's been the quickest demise of a national team that was at such a high level that I've seen. It's like the reverse of Canada. Did we take Ghana's spot? Did Ghana take our spot? I mean, we went up and down at the same time. It was such a surprise, and I'm very disappointed because I'm a big fan of African football, and I wanted to look to Ghana this year to perhaps maybe do something again when I was thinking 4 years ago. Not to be the case, but I agree. Portugal, yep. Uruguay, yep, going through. And I'm gonna ask you one quick question. Brazil gets out of the group. Are they your winner for the championship?
Ooh, you know, that's a tough question. For me,
This is Ultimate Soccer with Soccer Steve.
The Ultimate Soccer Show. Join me, listen, you'll love it. Everybody does.